To all veterans, 6 years after getting back from the Gulf War, my wife Carol, who was a nurse on the front line, like tens of thousands of American and British soldiers, she's sick. We don't really know why, and our governments aren't telling us. What we do know for sure is that it must have been something from the battlefields of Iraq.
It just wasn't normal. I was in the military at the time for 13 years, but this wasn't anything like I saw before. I mean, it just wasn't normal. To me, it looked like we must have nuked them. That's what it reminded me of. Like, there must have been a nuclear explosion because these vehicles were burned. The bodies were, I mean, just as black can be. And some of the bodies were even melted into the vehicles. I asked my platoon sergeant and chief ward master that were driving with me at the time, why are they so black? And they couldn't answer that. You just have mixed emotions because at one time I was a part of the United States military that I always felt I was always there to help. And now you see yourself as being part of a military that destroyed all this. And now we have all this illness after the war, and all these people that are sick, and it's because they use so many different weapons that were never used before, like depleted uranium, just in our missiles, our aircraft, and of the fact that we didn't even know about it. They didn't know about it. We destroyed so much.
It's our belief that some of the illnesses are linked to a weapon that was first used by the Allies in the battlefield. We are trying to find out anything about this weapon, because neither the soldiers nor the public know. Any thoughts or ideas will be greatly received. God bless, Tony Piku.
Well, it's certainly not a problem that's solely American. In 1989 to 1990, actually, before...
I got an article where they said there wasn't really enough radiation out there to be concerned about as long as
we knew what it was, but they didn't make a big deal out of us. They didn't tell us, this could be harmful.
Friendly fire incidents, because at that time the United States...
The British government had exported from the US somewhere in the region of 500,000 kilograms of depleted uranium that would have been made into shells.
This stuff was scattered all over the area.
That's when I took the shrapnel in the back of my head and in my back.
And they say when it burns, it's even more toxic.
The effect of the rounds was...
18 months after I'd been back from the Gulf, I was told I had acute myeloid leukemia.
Welcome. This is Dr. Michio Kaku, professor of nuclear physics at the City University of New York, and this is Exploration. Every week on Exploration, we discuss the fascinating world of science, as well as issues concerning war, peace, and the environment. And today we're going to focus on an issue that perhaps you haven't heard about, DU, depleted uranium. That the United States government is now using nuclear waste on the battlefield.
In the United States, the Air Force and the Navy began developing medium caliber depleted uranium rounds in the early 70s, and the Army fielded our first DU tank round in 1981.
Most people realize that we have hundreds of tons of nuclear tailings, waste uranium ore, left over from the mining and milling of uranium. And from this uranium, we process it and we extract out U-235. U-235 is the ingredient that devastated the city of Hiroshima. However, what you probably don't realize is that this generates an enormous quantity of U-238. Now, U-238 cannot be used in atomic bombs. However, it's enormously heavy, 1.7 times denser than lead. But some guy had the idea of using depleted uranium as a weapon, precisely because it is so heavy. Depleted uranium will pierce right through reinforced tank steel.
It also has a self-sharpening characteristic, so that as it moves through enemy armor, it continues to sharpen itself into a chisel point.
As a consequence, we have enormous amount of hot gases that then escape into the tank and literally fry people inside that tank almost like chickens.
I saw rounds that would penetrate the front slope of a T-62 where the driver's compartment is and actually exit the engine compartment of that vehicle. And then a second or two later, you see the fireball come up out of the hatches of the turret. It's a pretty awesome display of destructive power, that's for sure.
The very fact that hot gases will incinerate people on the inside of the tank is also the reason why it will aerosolize. It will pulverize. It will be converted into a very fine mist of submicron-sized particles that will then be carried by the winds. And that's why the battlefield in the Persian Gulf is, in fact, radioactive.
I think it was pretty common knowledge in my battalion that we not only were using DU rounds, but whether any of us knew the technicalities of that, I suspect was probably pretty rare. I certainly didn't understand it. All I knew was that it gave us an advantage, and I was happy for that.
3, 2, 1. My position for about 10 miles. Impact. Boom! Oh, yes!
That round comes in and it's pyrophoric in nature, which means that the parts as they break off catch fire. And as they catch fire, you got secondary explosions and detonations going off all over the place. The crazy thing about this is the fact that when the round hits, the contamination is spread out into a large area.
This means that RGIs, as well as Iraqi troops and civilians, have been flooded with uranium dioxide in their lungs.
This is my medicines that Anthony actually put together for me.
If you look at her, you wouldn't know that she has any injuries or any illness because all of her injuries are internal.
But because I have so many muscle aches and pains, and now I have this joint where I can't rotate this wrist.
Carol used to be full of life and real vibrant, not just toward life in general, but on a daily basis.
Take a bag of these along. These are my diapers. And these are my catheters. I have to catheterize myself when I urinate.
She has had basic tests which have shown levels of uranium, but the Army dismissed this as just background radiation and refused to do more detailed tests.
I catheterize myself anywhere from 5 to 8 times. It's supposed to be 8 times a day, but I try not to because of the infections. I think the worst time was when Anthony was there. I felt like I had messed myself. And I said, Anthony, just walk behind me. I think I might have messed myself. I got to the car and I said, did I? He goes, oh, Carol. And he put newspaper down on his seat for his car so I could get in. I mean, I felt like a dog.
As far as the actual exposures of those soldiers that we know of, it was limited to those people that went in and actually retrieved the vehicles that were damaged through the friendly fire. And those people are being monitored as we speak by the Veterans Administration, especially those with the shrapnel in them. So, and thus far, they haven't seen any negative effects or causative effects in those people.
We, along with the Pentagon, know DU creates a dust cloud that can travel for over 20 miles. How many soldiers were in its path? Let's face it, even the air was contaminated. My wife Carol breathed that air and also dealt with injured Iraqi troops, their clothes and gear all contaminated. Thousands of soldiers are sick. I truly believe that the Army is totally aware of the consequences of inhalation and ingestion of depleted uranium.
I received a document in a brown envelope stamped from Washington, D.C. And on it, I call it a secret document, but it says on the bottom, this document is protected from the Freedom of Information Act. I had developed a lot of concerns because we had threatening phone calls. One guy had his voice, you don't know me, but they're watching you, and hang up. It was about 11:45, and I decided I was gonna go to bed, and And at 1:45 in the morning, I was just woken out of a sound sleep and looked out the window, and it was the brightest orange flame I probably have ever experienced in my life. And the whole back seat of Anthony's car was just engulfed in flames.
The bottom line on our car burning up is, if it was something done by the government or military or whoever, then there must be some type of importance to this report. Veterans, we should be aware that this report lists dust from DU as a hazard that may be responsible for many of the symptoms vets show. Symptoms which are identical to those which my wife Carol has. This confirms what we suspected from a previous Army report which was written 4 years before the war, which said that DU hit tanks should only be approached while wearing breathing equipment and protective clothing. So if they know of the danger of potential exposure, why aren't they trying to find out what happened to those who were exposed?
I just see the Pentagon getting away with another experimentation. I call it experimentation because we were given so many different drugs, and the first time that depleted uranium was used on the battlefield, they saw their effectiveness. To me, that's an experiment.
There you go.
Our military doesn't have any problem trying to recruit these young men and women to join the service and they try to pump them up by everything that they've got to offer.
I am the soldier, I am skilled and smart, I've got the training, and I've got the heart, I'm the defender of our liberty, I am the soldier, count on me.
But what they don't want to explain is what the effects or the end result of the use of that equipment it has. So I kind of feel that, the military or the Pentagon is lying.
1, 2, 4 degrees. Bingo.
It's because they realize that the depleted uranium penetrator is such an awesome weapon that they don't want to jeopardize its use in the next war.
I know what my job is on the battlefield. I'll take the best weapons they give me to do it with, and go do what they ask me to do.
This is my life, trying to figure out what's wrong with me and try to figure out how to help myself, because I'm not getting any help from our government. I'm not getting any help from the military doctor, so I might as well keep researching to help myself to get better and stronger.
To all concerned, feeling stonewalled by our own government, we wrote to the Iraqi government asking about the effects of the 900,000 DU rounds fired in their country. They responded with an invitation to visit and see for ourselves. So Carol became the first Gulf War veteran to return to the battlefields of Iraq.
I didn't fear the Iraqi people before when I was in the battle zone. I didn't have that fear. I had a peace about it, that I was going to do my job and that I was going to come back. And as far as how they will treat us or accept us, that's the uncertainty and a fear that's there, that we don't know what's going to happen, and you won't know till you actually get there. We just trust. We put our faith and our trust in the Lord. He's brought us through so much turmoil since after the war. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask that you send your heavenly angels to surround us wingtip to wingtip and keep our vehicles safe.
We may not even understand, or we may may not even realize what we're about to walk into. Protectors and guides.
In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay. We do believe we've been sent on a mission of sorts, but this mission is one of goodwill, as opposed to the type of mission that Carol was sent on, along with the hundreds of thousands of other soldiers 6 years ago.
Take all the pictures. Take a picture. Yeah. Take a picture. Hey, take a picture. They're coming this way. You ready? Cheese.
This morning we had a chance to go to the ministry office, and when we got into the office there were 4 supposedly high-ranking Iraqi generals. One was even said to be the tank commander for all of the southern-based tanks during the war. It was just monumental in a way, because out of all the years that we've been doing this activism in support of the veterans issues, we've never really been in a meeting of that high, of that many authority figures in the room at once. And along with these 4 generals, I guess there were about 9 or 10 Iraqi soldiers that were supposedly sick from various forms of leukemia.
Yunus Muhammad is got, Hodgkin lymphoma. Hodgkin lymphoma.
We believe that there is some form of a relationship between the usage of DU and the present cases of cancer or deformation in the families of the soldiers or the ordinary people in the southern part of Iraq.
This is normally the type of cancer that you would see in older people.
That's right.
Not young people.
Even leukemias. We studied leukemia. You are a nurse. Leukemias occurs in 2 extremes of life. Children and after 50.
Right.
We're talking about things that we have not seen before. Neither the alarming rise in cancerous cases, nor the different defects of the newly born babies in many different families, whether it will be the families of the soldiers or the people in the community.
Right.
All white
Blood
cells
cells are
decline completely.
It leaves doubt in my mind as to whether these people were really Iraqi officials or they were just people taken off the street and put in uniform. But I believe because of the way they spoke and because of just the way that they expressed their feelings, I believe that they were sincere.
Do they also have the swelling in their neck? A lot of neck and back pain?
Yes, but he got back pain, swelling, and he's treated now under chemotherapy.
We don't have really right now, because of the economic situation, the sophisticated tools to establish these direct linkages. And we hope that through the cooperation between the concerned organizations, we could go into that line to try to establish these linkages. This is very important.
Dear Dan, I saw you on the news last night. As always, keep up the good work.
A meeting has been called between Gulf War veterans and Dr. Rosticker of the Department of Defense. Initiated by Dan Fahey, an ex-serviceman turned activist against the use of depleted uranium, it is hoped that this meeting will shed some light on what's been called the Army's miracle weapon.
Some may say the Persian Gulf War was won because of the use of depleted uranium as an anti-tank missile. But while celebrating its destructive power, is the Army, as activist Dan Fahey suggests, ignoring its negative effects?
The Gulf War was really a glimpse into what we're going to see in future wars. Incredibly toxic battlefields and people being exposed to toxins that are going to impact their immune systems, that are going to give them cancers.
So is it too late? This is the training video from the Army that warns how to avoid contamination, but it was only produced after the war.
They were not as aware as we would like today, and that's why we changed the education program.
What's great is by admitting the troops were inadequately trained, it's clearly saying that DU is absolutely dangerous.
But if the troops weren't warned, then does it mean that DU's destructive force has been turned against us?
We're watching our people, we're concerned about their health, but all in all, the story of depleted uranium is a success story.
But if it's such a success, then should we worry about other nations having this miracle weapon?
It's very clear that they're minimizing the dangers, downplaying the extent of the exposures, and did not show any interest in discussing the future effects of this and the proliferation issues involved. So I believe there's a cover-up. They're definitely more interested in justifying the continued use of this than with taking the health.
It seems like everybody in the world can buy depleted uranium on the open market.
If you're asking whether we're playing Escaladio with the rest of the world as far as DU rounds are concerned, then yeah, you're probably
Everybody
correct.
found out this works. Therefore, if it works, why don't I buy it?
We've also got now an advert from a Russian Weapons and Military Technology Index that is offering depleted uranium shells for sale, price on appraisal. So, I mean, if you want to go out and buy your own depleted uranium shell, I mean, the Russians will sell you one, as long as you come up with the right price.
We all share your fears about the broader effects on the environment. An Army doctor whose investigations were stopped by his superiors says,
Uranium-238 has half-life of 4.5 billion years. For a radioactive element to reach non-radioactive state, we have to encounter about 10 half-lives.
There is a little reading here.
Which means long after the Earth is gone, after the Sun is gone, and after the universe does not exist anymore, there will be uranium that is known to us today in the cosmic dust.
Okay, we're going into operation here. When we were in Iraq, we took sand samples to bring back to the U.S. to see just how much radiation is still out there. Let's see if it still makes the noise with the Geiger counter. Probably so.
Shoes. Put it in a film canister, Anthony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It will give you.
We're gonna have to find something else to put it in.
Some metal.
Metal,
box.
yeah. Okay.
I only came to get my shoes. You can hear it inside.
Here is the center of heating. Oh, all these areas are highly contaminated.
And now, because of its success in the war, how many other countries must have bought it which means how many areas of the world run the risk of future contamination?
I would say that it's 17 countries, and we know that China, for example, India, Pakistan, Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Persian Gulf countries, Israel, Libya, South Africa, they have uranium artillery shells.
If it's available, would the Iraqi army want to have it because they know that the next battle they go into, they may be having it shot at them again?
It's like, how can they defend themselves
شلون
now
تدافع عن نفسك الآن؟
against such a weapon?
أما إذا أحد دول الجوار امتلكت هالسلاح وبدأت تهددنا به فهذا يأخذ موضوع آخر يعني سابق الأوان أنه نتحدث به.
But if we have some news of the neighbors from the countries, they have this kind of weapons. This is another subject. We have to think about this in the future.
New info regarding DU. The armies say they are doing tests, and when pushed to reveal what they found, they say,
since we're finding that there is a distribution to the brain, which we hadn't expected, then perhaps we need to continue to explore in the veterans what kind of neurological symptoms they might show.
But they aren't doing tests on vets, only rats, despite them saying,
we are seeing cellular changes with depleted uranium, and this does indicate that there might be some precursors for tumor formation.
And what is stranger is they themselves seem to be troubled by the implication of their findings, not just for the veterans, but the veterans' children.
There is, in our animal model, a transfer of uranium to the fetus, and it would be of interest, well, not of interest, but of concern, to continue to monitor the fetus in any human patients that had been exposed to depleted uranium fragments.
My question is, do our governments really know and don't want to tell? Or is it they don't know, but if there's evidence in front of them, they are refusing to look at it?
I didn't deploy to Kuwait till after the ground war had ended. When we came back, me and my wife decided to have another child, and we got blessed in having twins. And Jeremy and Joshua are their names. And one of my sons was born with a birth defect. His arm stopped growing just about 1.5 inches past his elbow joint, so it just looks almost, like an amputation is what it looks like. I had taken my son to a children's hospital in Dallas, Texas. One of the nurses quoted me, she said, "We just examined a baby earlier this morning with the same problem." I contacted this family. They're Dory and Brian Rayburn, and it's just more than just a coincidence. I mean, to compare my son and his son with the same birth defect down to the little dimples on his little arm. And I've talked to Brian, and he told me he feels that he was exposed to DU penetrator rods. And when I was there, stationed in Kuwait, our mission was performing maintenance. And I was just working on a vehicle, and there was a lot of commotion, people running. So I stepped out the vehicle, and people started yelling that the ammunition was on fire. Me and some soldiers were put on a detail to go clean up that area. And we had some water coolers and ice. They were set up near these barrels. And inside these barrels, I remember seeing these rods, these 2-foot long rods. and of course it's depleted uranium. These officers pull up in a military Humvee vehicle, and his words were, "You guys need to move this water away from this area." And they start cording off that area and labeling these barrels with radioactive material on them. And my question to that officer was, "Isn't it a little late for that, sir?" And he turned around and looked at me and said, "You just move out, soldier." We didn't have no protective gear when we went in there to clean. And of course, those officers that showed up to tell us to move the water, they knew something because they started labeling the barrels with these decals being radioactive material.
I admit I had my doubts that the Iraqi military leaders might see us as a propaganda opportunity. Now I believe they are sincere. We went to a pediatric hospital where the doctors consider DU exposure may have caused ill effects. The hospital was built somewhere between 1984 and 1986. You would never know it by walking through the corridors and going into the rooms. The rooms that we were invited into had 8 beds, 4 on each wall, and there were 2 bathrooms in each room. And the bathrooms, the conditions were deplorable. There may have been 2 fluorescent light bulbs in each corridor. All the rest were either burned out or just missing. The attitudes of the people we spoke to was that they're doing all they can do with what they've got.
There are people, doctors saying, I've been seeing more cancers, okay, more congenital abnormalities, and so on. And we ran a survey on 400 doctors, specialists in different topics. And we discovered that there has been increasing number of cases as compared to what they used to see before the war.
And he's definitely underdeveloping groves.
The staff was reduced to virtually nothing. The doctor that toured us around told us that their salary is about $3 American per month. And physicians are actually leaving their jobs and they're going to work as taxi drivers because they can make more money in a day as a taxi driver than they make the whole month as a physician.
But we cannot say that this definitely causes that. You see, that's the problem. We could say that these factors combined have caused this. We can, because it's evident. What else? There's nothing else. But specifically, chemicals, or specifically DU. I can't. But all of them combined, yes. What else? Death has increased for another reason, an extra reason, because we have no treatment facilities. Because of the sanctions, they don't allow us. We don't have medicine.
Just see their suffering. It's no different than my friends that have suffered, that have died of brain tumors, and their families have members have cancer, their babies have birth defects. It's no different. It's, you know, I just feel like we were lied to by our own country. They used the weapons. They gave us experimental drugs. They exposed us to depleted uranium and never warned us about it. And they did it to this people. you just feel helpless because you don't have the answers. You don't have treatment for them. You just watch your friends, your comrades die. You watch these people die. And there's something wrong there.
From what we saw in Iraq, we couldn't say it was DU that did this or that it wasn't, just that it might have. It's like the Parker family, Carol's friends whose son was one of the first veterans to die upon returning. They believe it was because of DU, but don't know for sure either. But unlike in Iraq, in this case, we believe the government does know.
It was really hard when Rob died. It was very difficult when Rob died, and we felt like that he had been a victim of the Persian Gulf War. But the hardest part, I think, came after he died. They send you a letter, and they say, due to unusual circumstances surrounding Rob's death, we have sealed his records. Why would you seal the records? If you don't have anything to hide, just tell everybody what's going on.
And dear Lord, I hope that in our future times, that this family will have answers, and that the military will be able to give them peace of what happened to their son and their brother. I thank this family for their loyal support that they were for the Persian Gulf veterans and all that they tried to accomplish. Lord, I just ask you that you be with them as we continue to look for answers in our journey. In Jesus' name, we ask and pray that you be with us today and always. Amen.
To anyone concerned, there is no doubt that depleted uranium is an amazing weapon. But as it's sold all over the world, is the trade-off of success on the battlefield worth what it may be doing afterwards? I don't think so. As Carol and so many like her are sick, we would like answers to our questions from our governments and for DU to be banned at the very least until we properly understand it. As always, our site on the internet is open. God bless. Tony Piku.